Hello, everybody, and welcome on the Commerce Show. Thank you for joining us today on this 10th episode. So, I'm really excited to present you our special guest this week. I've been talking with Aubrey Terrazas. Uh, Aubrey has a lot of background. She is a wine expert. So she started in California. Now she lives in France. And she is one of the co-founder actually of Palate Club, which is a subscription business model that sell wine as like a wine club, but online. And they developed an AI technology that matches the consumer taste to the right wine bottle. So it has been amazing. We've entered into a lot of new concerns that some entrepreneurs in e-commerce have about subscription business model. We've talked about their marketing strategy, how the alcohol industry have some impact and restrictions on how they do market themselves, how also the COVID affected them. In fact, they were doing marketing in events to make them, discovered by people because they just started the business prior to COVID. So a lot of challenges, but also lots of knowledge and learning since the beginning. So it has been really, really interesting to be talking with her. She also co-founded one of the largest marketing agency, wine agency in California. So she has several marketing background and experiences. So it was really fun. Really enjoyed that podcast. She also speaks French a bit, so we've talked prior to the call and we had fun. So I think it's a unique podcast. You will enjoy it for sure. Thank you for joining us on this 10th episode. And the podcast starts right now, just after you've subscribed to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Hello, everybody, and welcome on the Commerce Show. Today, I'm with Aubrey Terrazas. Hello, Aubrey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Am I pronouncing it right, Terrazas? Right?
Yeah, that's good.
Is it a French name? I know you speak French.
It's actually a Bolivian name. If you're
Oh,
watching the YouTube recording, I'm obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but it's a married name. I'm German, but
oh,
a German background, but raised in America. Married into a Bolivian family and moved to France.
oh. Okay.
Yeah.
that that's interesting. And I know you've started your career as a sommelier or sommelière in French, as we say, for various restaurants, and you've been in several startup as wine and marketing expert. Um, I also discovered you co-founded one of the California's largest wine marketing agency. Congrats for this.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your professional background and also your interest? Why do you love wine that much? And I want to know more.
Yeah. Well, so growing up, I am from the Midwest in the States. I'm from Iowa, and we moved around a lot. And just because I'm not sure why I wasn't in the army or anything, but lived in 7 different states. So I became very
Wow.
adaptable and very social because you kind of have to be out of your shell a little bit if you're always the new girl. Um,
Mhm.
and so, and that'll be important in a second. But I started waiting tables when I was 14, and I just kind of stayed with that all through high school and through college. And so, as I became more professional and more experienced as working in fine dining, I really developed a love for wine and hospitality. In particular, I find that wine is such a great way to connect with people it's a great conversation piece. It makes people relaxed. It's always such a social
Of
thing
course.
to share. Yeah. And so I think it really tied into, my hospitality experience um, and also just my love for people and connection. Um,
Hmm.
over time, as I worked longer in restaurants, I ended up working in restaurants for about 15 years. And of course, when you get
Wow.
higher up, you're in fine dining, management, you're a wine director, you do sort of a lot of grassroots marketing and you make a lot of connections. So eventually, I co founded a wine marketing agency in San Francisco. And that grew really fast within the niche. Around that time is when I met the co founder of Palate Club, which is
Okay.
another business of mine. It's a wine club app that uses AI to match wines to your taste. And
Hmm.
so I'm still working with that. I moved to France in October 2019 with all the dreams to travel and eat out right before COVID hit. Um,
Yeah, you've enjoyed it before the pandemic. That's great.
yeah, it was not the greatest timing for moving to Europe, but c'est la vie.
Hmm.
And I
C'est la
sold
vie,
my
effectivement.
oui, exactement. It's really just life. I sold my partnership actually to that agency in uh, January, February 2020. So also right before the pandemic. And then I started a new wine marketing agency in Europe called Terravine.
Okay.
So it was just really kind of a natural progression, just a different path for wine besides the sommelier track, especially at that point in my career, unlike other of my peers who were maybe working 5 or 6 years focused on wine. I mean, I'd really been working nights and weekends my whole life, literally half my life. And so I wanted to be able to reach new customers besides the fine dining crowd, the wealthy 1%. And I
Yep.
wanted to have the flexibility to travel and spend time with my family. So I got into the world of entrepreneurship.
That's really cool. Just if we go back into the Gen Z part, would like to know what does an marketing wine agency does offer as service. So are you doing like the labeling, the introduction on the market for a new product? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that a lot of people in this niche do need to be a little bit of generalist. So it depends on the agency. Um, the things that I found, my company did not do labeling, but we could connect with a designer if the
Okay.
company needed it. But we focused more on event marketing as well as social
Okay.
media, branding, and in some cases for e-commerce companies, there'd be some PPC and definitely SEO content creation.
Okay. So more on the field part and also on the web part, you have like the two sides. So okay, that's really cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And how do you find your journey in entrepreneurship since then?
Well, I think like all entrepreneurs, it's been a roller coaster. It's I mean, it's so great to feel that sense of accomplishment, especially coming from the restaurant world where, when you are truly a professional in the restaurant industry, you're working 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. often,
Yeah.
and it's very thankless as well. And so, I mean, I think that was part of it is I felt like I'm such a hard worker that I could really do something on my own. And some that work ethic carried through, but I think I've had to learn to have a lot of optimism as well. It's not like you just start a business and then it works out. You have to constantly learn and say, okay, I thought that was really going to work, but that's not what people want. And learning to adapt not only your skill set and your offering, but also, even like your personality and your mindset has to adapt to the different situations because it's always changing.
Yeah. And yeah, and when the pandemic hit, you need to find new solutions for a lot of stuff. We
Yeah.
we had lots of interview on the show talking about how the COVID impacted businesses, and we're gonna be jumping in that a little bit later. But first, you've talked a little bit about Palette Club, which is I guess your main business right now. So Palette Club
right now is currently disrupting the wine club and wine industry in general. For the benefit of all our listeners, we heard AI and we heard subscription business model, but I would like to learn more about Palate Club and understand how you disrupt the market, but also what's the offer service offering of that company.
Yeah. So when you typically buy wine, first of all, most people don't know very much about wine, which is normal. I mean, I don't. That's why I hire
Like
a
me.
tax professional. Like it's not your job, so it's normal
Okay, yeah.
actually. But people are very. That's for some reason with wine, people are very embarrassed to talk about it if they don't know. So oftentimes you go to a store or you go online and there's thousands of labels and it's hard to find good help. To it's hard to have that trust to buy a new product because it's not like music or clothes where you can just kind of see it and know if you'll like it or not. So what we do is we have identified over 200 data points, different traits that can
Okay.
be found in wine. So that came from
Okay.
my side. We worked with data scientists in Paris to create an
Okay.
algorithm. So every time that we buy a wine, because we don't make a wine, we buy finished product. We
Okay.
as
That's interesting to know. Okay. So you
Yeah,
distribute wine.
mhm, a lot
Yeah.
of wine
Okay.
clubs make wine in bulk, but we want the more artisanal approach. And whenever we buy it, a sommelier tastes it and identifies it objectively to say, okay, this is what's in this bottle. So that way, when you rate it, it starts to learn which traits are important to you, and it can find and suggest new wines that match your taste, and then send it to you
Mm.
monthly, bi-monthly, whatever that might be. So you have just this
Mm.
really fun discovery process where you get wines shipped blind that you can share with friends and learn more about your taste and create a conversation about wine.
That's really interesting because on my end as a regular wine drinker, I don't know a lot. I know I love a Cabernet, but it's always hard to find always the right wine. I've started to use the Vivino, which is an app that can help me just scanning the label, but at the end, I think it does make so much sense to have a service that will send you new bottles, make you discover stuff that you will love for sure because it does match your taste. So yeah, that's really awesome. And how you came up with that idea? That's really it's the first time I saw a business that does things like that. It just reminds me like the health company right now that are you send like a saliva sample to just find your DNA or issues about your health. I think it's still it looks like the same type of business. Like you're gonna adapt your product to the client. So how you had that idea.
Sure. Well, I joined the project from the very, very beginning, but the
Okay.
founder, Nicolas, he is actually French and lived in America. And as a serial entrepreneur, he was very intrigued by the way that Americans were approaching wine with the wine club. And there were other companies that even kind of claimed to match wines to your taste. But it was so hard to find good wine that way. Like you want the convenience of being able to shop online, but it's actually still really hard and very fragmented in the States, in part because they use
Okay.
bulk wine, in part because companies so far have just used some stupid quiz where basically they say, oh, do you like your coffee black or with cream? Do you like raspberries? So if you like raspberries, you must love raspberry flavor in your wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like more introduction questions, not really wine specific, but yeah. Okay. I get
Yeah,
it.
I mean your wine taste is different than your food taste. So he wanted to make it easy for people to enjoy wine without any of the snobbery, without any of the stress, be able to trust the experience and get new wines match their taste, and really to have a fun experience because wine kind of all of the prestige and all of the different labels, either you're getting not so great wine or there's so much snobbery around it that it's hard to just relax and just enjoy it with friends, which is what it's all about.
Yes, it is, and that's awesome that you're working there and you're revolutionizing the industry. But I would like to know also how you know move from an hospitality and working at restaurants role to the tech and the subscription business industry, because it's totally different. So how you make your way in the industry?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that people don't realize about people who've worked in restaurants for a long time is that they're some of the most intelligent and adaptable people. I mean, think about, they're born entrepreneurs. In the restaurant service, you're constantly solving problems. It's not like you show up to the
Mhm.
desk, you do the same thing every day. You don't know what's going to come at you. You have to move really fast. You have to work on a team. And so, I mean, honestly, it was, I decided to start working for myself with the agency. I saw a need, uh, but I mean the transition into working with tech wasn't as hard. It wasn't as big of a jump as you might expect, because
Okay.
I learned really quickly. I networked. I put my head down, and my experience with connections with hospitality helped, and my level of being able to adapt um, helped as well.
Cool, cool. And how did the pandemic uh, affected your business? Does it generate more sales, or you have to change a little bit the business model? So can you tell us a little bit more about the COVID situation at Palate Club?
Yeah, well, certainly very established wine brands like Vivino or Wine.com saw a huge increase in sales. We all knew that the surge of people buying wine online was imminent, and that just sort of pushed it to the front. So I think in the long term, it's going to be really good for us as a total industry shift.
Mhm.
However, we're still a young startup, and a lot of our acquisition before came from events. And that was actually true for
Okay.
the agency side as well. With wine, we're very, fast and fast. Like, we love to just meet and people and network that way. So it did slow things down in that way and forced us to
Okay.
find different channels of acquisition.
Yeah, because when you market yourself with events and all the events shut down, and
Yeah.
your event slash product is something that needs to be tasted, you cannot do it online. So no wine event online, or actually you can send some wine to a potential customer, but it's harder. So what I've understood is that you're sending some wine bottle like with numbers, or that people don't know the type of bottle that they are receiving. So they say, I want red wine or I want white wine, and send me lots of samples. And then based on their feedbacks, your technology will adapt the product offering after on their subscription, right?
Yeah, the first shipment is has a pretty low dollar entry point, and it's just 4 half bottles, so it's really easy to consume. But that one, you don't
Okay,
know what it is for sure. But after you eat those 4 bottles,
of
that
course.
gives us enough information. But then after that, we do let you preview the shipment, just because wine is still subjective, and it always will be. So we say, this is what we think you'll like, but just in case, you can see, in case in college you had you know food poisoning at an Italian restaurant, and now you just hate Chianti or whatever it is. So you can change, and you'll still get that feedback with a sommelier if you're looking to swap something in your shipment.
So people can swap the bottle prior they receive it,
Mm-hmm.
so they can adapt their offering. Okay, that's really interesting. And most of our clients are subscribers, so they receive each month wine bottle. Um, what type of challenges you met? You know, when you started, but also right now into your acquisition and retention of your customers. We know that there's a lot of churn to be managed on the KPI side for subscription
Mm-hmm.
business. But I would like to know, and after that, we're going to be talking about all the alcohol challenges, which is another
Very
another complete
complicated.
topic. But yeah, let's start with the challenges you have for your subscription business model.
Yeah, well, honestly, for us, our turn rate is thankfully very, very low. Once people have had a couple of shipments, they generally stick with us for a long time and they're happy with the product. And I think that comes
Hmm.
down to offering really great customer service, especially for a
Yes.
subscription. You know, if there's issues are going to happen, and this is something else that I learned from fine dining. It's not so much about avoiding problems as how you react to them. They're inevitable, but just offer good service and be there for the customer and make things as easy as possible. I do think that for a more expensive subscription model, like something like wine, um, that the initial acquisition is more difficult because people, especially because, like you said, wine is an experience. It's something that you kind of want to taste, and so there's that trust, which is why events are so great for wine because it's, you know, again, you can't just see a shirt and kind of guess if you're going to like it. Um, so we have to be very strong with our brand message and offer as much social proof as possible and offer as much, you know, money back guarantees, satisfaction guarantee that we can, a very good offer to try to get people to trust us for that first purchase, and then after that they are generally very happy.
Okay, that's really interesting to see that you have like a really good lifetime value of customer because you can adjust your budget in terms of acquisition and spend a little bit more in terms of ad spend, let's say, to get a new customer because you know he's gonna stick to the product. So that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have lots of competition in that specific niche? I'm curious about that because it's the first time, as I said earlier, that I hear about that type of business model in the States, because we have to say it. I think it's mainly in the United States right now.
Yeah, due to alcohol regulations, we are only able to ship within the United States. Otherwise, we get into export and all sorts of crazy things. Um, but there are other wine clubs. There are a lot of wine clubs. There's, I mean, if you look at the total wine space, it's pretty competitive. There are other wine clubs that claim to match wines to your taste. We're the only ones that use wine tasting to do that instead of, you know, just filling out a quiz about what type of food you like or something. And we're the only ones, to my knowledge, that send Finnish artisan wines instead of
Okay.
bringing in bulk wine and making it in a parent winery.
Okay, so it does make a little difference there, and so you're pushing more, fine wine and higher quality wine, but you bring it more accessible to the clients, and it does make a lot of sense. Um, Talking about all the alcohol restrictions, as you said, so because of those restrictions right now you only sell like most of your sales are in the US. Can you tell us how you adapt yourself, but also what are those regulations, and what type of challenge do you have in terms of advertising and marketing and all around that?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a huge initial one. If you are a special ad category like alcohol, or I mean, another one might be real estate or something, you have so many more regulations. So advertising is already hard. It's already crowded. But then the type of content you can produce and the channels that you can use are much more limited. For example, TikTok does not allow alcohol advertising. Um,
It does make sense because it's so much young
yeah,
on TikTok in
sure.
terms
Well, it was in
of
the
audience.
beginning. I think that's changing, just like any other social media platform. It more and
Yeah.
more older people start to adapt. Um, but that's just one example. The other thing is that alcohol laws change not only from country to country, but from state to state. And so, for example, that's why a lot of the wine companies do choose to act as a winery and make bulk wine instead of importing or bringing in finished wine, because if you're a winery, you can ship to any of the states. If you're a distributor, you have to have a license for every single state that you sell to.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's a
that's a
logistics
big challenge.
nightmare. Luckily, like I said,
Okay.
the founder is French, so he's totally used to paperwork. But we
Yes, I
yeah.
heard in France it's something. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone daydreams about life and expat dreams in France, but the bureaucracy is everything they say it is.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But we got around
So
that by having a logistics partner. So we pay a flat percentage for all of our sales, and they basically handle all of the licensing to the different states. So right now we're in 44 states, most of them.
okay, that's really
And
cool.
yeah,
So,
and then we have a warehouse that packages up and sends it out. And that's a pretty traditional model for alcohol. It's not very often where the winery will do that all themselves unless you're pretty big. But that does require a lot of trust, because you have to, trust the guys in the warehouse to package it and to get the right thing out on the right time. And then there's a different company that specializes in wine shipment, and they make sure that it's temperature controlled. And then when it gets to the door, someone over 21 has to sign for it.
okay, and how do you do the temperature control? Like if you ship to Florida, it's gonna be hot.
Yeah, there are different companies that take care of that, and they specialize in alcohol shipping.
Oh, okay. So it's just the transporter. You don't change something to your box, or you don't put. Not, I would say ice, but
No.
it's not gonna be ice. But you don't want the wine to overeat during the transportation,
Right.
or get hit on the box and maybe break a bottle, because I guess your bottle worth
Yeah.
a lot, so you don't want the product to be broken. So you decided to go in 3PL. Actually, that's how we say it in Canada. So a third party logistic to manage your shipment and make sure you're compliant with all those regulations, and to be able to send to various states. So that's really interesting, and it was one of my questions. So it does answered it earlier. So that's perfect. What has been your biggest challenge so far in terms of managing the e-commerce and managing the growth? You can have more than one, but what has been the biggest challenge?
So many challenges. Yeah, I think it's really just fun. I think in this industry in particular, with wine, it's really just getting that initial acquisition and getting people to trust, because it's not something that you can just spend $5, $10, and then if it doesn't work out, whatever. It's something that shipping is very expensive, and people are really worried about trying something they won't like with wine, which is exactly what we're trying to solve. So it's really just getting that trust, I think.
Yeah, of course, but I think once someone start to use your service and product, actually, you will enjoy it, and you make sure that the client will stay if you send some quality product with adjustment to their taste. So it does make a lot of sense. And how do you find right now new clients? What are your best acquisition channels that you know that if you put like $1,000, you'll get like 10 subscribers? Or how does it work right now? If we say that events are not there and it's only online acquisition.
I mean, honestly, even online, we're finding that events really are the best way to get new people. So right now,
Of course.
we're launching an ambassador program. There are so many people that are looking for digital tastings, even in this sort of transitioning out of COVID time. A lot of corporate tastings, a lot of people that just want to get together with different parts of the country and taste something. And so the ambassadors get a commission off of selling wine for their tasting. And then if someone subscribes from the tasting, then they also get a commission, actually, every time that person buys again with their subscription. So it's pretty cool for them, because they can get some passive income that's generous.
Oh yes.
And I like I said, I really think we found that people are most likely to convert when they try the product. So along with that, gifting too, if someone buys a gift for someone, oftentimes the person who receives the gift will actually become a subscriber, again, because they have the opportunity to try the experience.
Yeah, and I was having an idea, and I saw that on your website to receive like the starter pack, it's around $60 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is it correct?
Yeah.
Um, uh, are were would you be able? It's a question, and we brainstorm right now. Would you be able to reduce those costs with having like smaller bottles, just to do like a shot of a wine and sending like small samples, maybe in an envelope or something that would bring down the cost maybe to $10, and then you can generate more leads and more conversions. Maybe it's my agency side that is talking, but I'm curious what you think about that. Do you think customers really need to receive like half a bottle to really enjoy the wine and taste, because it does takes more than one sip to be able to enjoy the wine, or realize that it doesn't make sense for you? I would like to know your thoughts about that, because when you're working on an acquisition strategy, the entry price point, which is $60, might be high for some people that just want to try it and feel the experience. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that has come up for us before. There
Okay,
are a couple of things. One, we're not the ones making the wine, so that does add add
a big
a lot of
challenge. Yeah.
logistics to have to then take finished wine and put it into a vial and repackage it. The other thing, and this is really particular to the founder Nicolas, is that the whole point is that it is supposed to be a social experience that's shared with friends, and there is something that's so much more romantic about having a wine bottle versus a vial of wine. And so
Okay.
I
Yeah.
guess the thought is just that it takes away so much from the actual experience, and it's really not. It's not. I think that our prices are really fair. This month they're starting at $10 a bottle for the subscription, but
Okay.
we're not
So
necessarily looking for value hunters though either. We want people that spend money on wine that maybe average $15 a bottle and above. So we're targeting more the premium wine drinkers.
here in Canada, $15 a bottle is very cheap. Like it's an entry bottle, but I know that in the US and in France it's really good wine. But here we have the SAQ that does take a
Yeah,
real good margin on top. But yeah, it does make sense, because it's cheaper, and it can be into a subscription business model, and it does make sense, which in Canada would be really expensive for people to subscribe to great wines, let's say at around 30-40 bucks per bottle each month. Can be yeah, you need to target, as you say, some some of the wealthiest
yeah,
customer. That's
yeah. When we've done too steep of discounts for the initial offering, and people can also get in with a quiz too. We do have a quiz that's about wine taste, so it's not about foods.
okay.
There is another
It's not
acquisition
about
channel.
coffee.
Yeah, but I personally, it's more fun in my opinion to do the tasting kit, because you get to taste
Yeah.
wine, and it's a good just sort of social experience. But when we have discounted that starter pack with the 4 half bottles too much, we found that actually it was a very bad market fit, because these people are looking for steep discounts. They get the one kit for $30. We lose money, and then very few of them actually stayed for the subscription, because
Mm.
again, we're looking for people that maybe normally spend $15 or $20 on a bottle of wine. So if they're just looking for a discount, then they're just going to go to the grocery store and buy a $5 bottle anyway.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you say. So even if you had a solution cheaper, the clients that would convert on those type of offer would not be the your targeted customer, and would not stick and be a recurrent in term of customer. And we see that so much times in businesses that are VC founded, that they try to diversify their acquisition strategies, and then they just start discounting, or selling some prepaid plans, and at the end we see that there's more churn. Yes, of course there are more acquisition, but at the end I think it decreased the perceived value from the customer, and that's not
Yeah.
what you want.
Exactly.
I'm curious about if you think about strategies around marketplaces such as Amazon, Walmart, and others to sell your entry pack there, and being seen by other customers that aren't looking, but that they might be able to discover your solution on marketplaces. Is it something you were interested about? Have you had a look into that, or?
Yeah, well, for Amazon, they don't do wine. They have a partnership with Whole Foods, so they did do wine for a second, and then they took it away, and it's just Whole Foods now.
Yeah, a
Um,
partnership. They bought them.
yeah,
That's
but there again, alcohol is very complicated. I mean, obviously, it'd be
Mhm.
great to be at Walmart, but that's a very big partnership and something that we can achieve to be in the stores maybe later. But partnerships have in general been really good acquisition strategy for us as well, especially other subscription models like partnering with maybe a flower subscription or coffee subscription, and kind of cross promoting or offering it as a bundle package has been really interesting for
Mhm.
us. In terms of a general
That's a really good idea.
marketplace, yeah, we haven't found the again just because of all the alcohol regulations as well, we haven't found a perfect fit for that yet.
Hmm. That's really interesting. And in terms of email marketing, do you have some specific strategies and a type of automations to win back a client, or have you put a lot of things in place to manage the email marketing strategy? How do you work on that end?
Absolutely. I still think that email marketing is very crucial and it's so interesting. I'm sure you see from the agency side as well, people are always like, oh, I don't want to bother my people too much. But
Yeah.
I mean, you have to.
Sending one newsletter per month and that's it.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, you really have to show up and remind people that you exist. So part of it isn't necessarily to get people to open every single email. That'd be great. It's not realistic, but it's just to remind them that you're there. So that way, when they're ready to buy, they know where to go. Um, but so we do have several drip campaigns depending on the audience segment. So, if they come in with the tasting kit, that's one. If they come in with a quiz, that's one. If we see that people have unsubscribed, then of course we have some win back strategies where we offer them something to come back and purchase something. If people haven't opened an email in a while, then we do periodically go through and try to do a win back strategy just to get them to engage with the emails and clean up the list as well.
Yeah, that's really important to don't have zombie or dead emails.
Yeah.
To make sure you get the good open rates. And I'm curious to see if we talk about the sales funnel for the web part. Because I know lots of the experience is outside, and also one of the funnels is the events. But you have various funnels that you're testing in terms of subscription. So when you acquire, let's say, a customer with an ad, and the client comes on the website, do you have various funnel that you test, and do you have any results about that, and what have you optimized in terms of funnel? Do you prefer something really shorter, or you will have like a long quiz to make them into the experience already? Like we see that sometime that you have to enter a quiz and you want to know the results, or you want to receive the email that will explain you what's the
Yeah.
taste, and I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Well, so we do have several different funnels for sure, and then within that we do A/B test. So for the quiz, we are actually redesigning it because of our findings. Before it was not super short, but it was short, and I think that didn't give people enough opportunity to tell us what they like. So now we actually have separated
Mm.
it into beginner and people that maybe know a little bit more about their taste. And absolutely, they have to obviously give their email to get the results and see their wine profile. Um, in terms of the tasting kit, I think that's so we sort of frame that around the experience. That's what it's all about. Our findings there have been that so one of our main landing pages for ads has been you get the free tasting kit for $60, and when you sign up for 1 month subscription ahead of time, which I think is a very good offer. And when we've used tools like Hotjar and seen how people are spending time on the page, longer forms don't do as well for us, is what we found. We're A/B testing that right now, but generally people, well, first of all, a lot of times they just more or less see the first above the fold and then want to go to the subscribing. So they've already seen enough from the ad to get them to convert. So there's a lot of fluff that can just distract them in between. And the other thing is that people generally just want to see the price. Like, we see what people are really looking at, and most of the time it's the price, as well as how it works. And so we try to make those more clear and more up at the top of the page. And yeah, in between, I mean, people aren't really, we have testimonials on the landing pages and things like that. People don't really spend that much time there. So really, they just kind of want to know what the clear offer is, and make it really easy to put the wine in their cart.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I see that you have a mobile app. Is it correct, or it's a web app? How does a client interact with your brand and your business actually after his initial purchase? Is it directly on the mobile app, or it's on the web? How does that work right now?
Yeah, so you can sign into your account with the app or on a web browser. And the main reason for that, well, there's two things. One, so every time you get a shipment, it has a secret bottle number on it, and you can rate the wine based on your taste. And we actually continue to improve. So it's not that just at the initial profile, but it actually has some computer learning to continue to optimize your wine profile.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting, because that was my second question, is that if you only drink, 4 type of wine, and as you said earlier, you have like 200 variants of type of wine, sending each time, a bottle to just increment the algorithm and make it more efficient. It will encourage, I think, customers to stay for a long time to receive the perfect wine one day.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, I do think it's really cool. Actually, that's one of my favorite parts. It's not, and the thing is, we don't weight all of the traits the same. We rate them differently depending on how you respond. And so if we see you're always putting 1 star for really high tannin, but maybe red fruit sometimes is 5 stars, sometimes it's 2 stars, we can say, okay, Philippe really doesn't like tannic wines. He doesn't really care too much about the red fruit. But we're really going to avoid wines with high tannin, and we can be more flexible with the fruit profile.
That's really, really interesting. And how do you track right now the interactions on the app versus the web? Do you aggregate all the data? Maybe it's a really depth questions, but how do you track everything, interactions with your app and also with the website, and get some feedback from it? Do you use a software, or how do you work for that?
Yeah, do you mean for the algorithm, or do you mean from a marketing standpoint?
Oh, it's more for a marketing standpoint, because for the algorithm, it would be maybe too more in-depth.
Well, it's actually, I mean, your profile, whether you do it on the browser or the app, they talk to each other. So, of course, that information gets passed through. So, I mean, it's really not too complicated. Our e-commerce system is Magento. And so we have all of the customer profiles in there. And, I mean, we use Google Analytics, and we just have we use Google Data Studio to review, which parts of the app people are engaged with the most. I mean, it's great now. Apps are really easy to track as well with Google Analytics. Nothing too fancy, really. We've used Hotjar, Lucky Orange, things like that, chat boxes.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, that's cool. I weren't aware that you were on Magento. That's really cool. In Storefront, we don't see it in terms of technology. I think we need to be signed up, because I was looking at all the apps you were using, and I saw that you're like on WordPress for the landing page and all that stuff. And yeah, that's amazing. I love Magento.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna jump into my final question. So I would like to know, how do you stay up to date about the e-commerce industry, and what are your source of truth in terms of marketing?
Yeah, it's hard. Marketing changes all the time, especially in crazy events like 2020. You have to really adapt. So I think that one, listening to podcasts like this, getting different perspectives from different industries is important. There's so many great now online events, webinars that you can check in and get some new ideas, um, as well as just reading different blogs, especially from marketing huge marketing companies like HubSpot. Always, I think, has a really great blog. They tend to stay on top of it.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, so I just
that's
carve a
cool.
little
That's
bit of time out every day to study.
Yeah, it's very important. And have you read books that changed the way you see marketing, or e-commerce, or you're less a book reader?
No, I'm definitely into books. I don't know if I've read one yet that has totally changed my world on e-commerce, but I'm open to recommendations. In terms of marketing, I really like brand storytelling by
Yeah,
Donald Miller. I think that one is really important for any marketer to frame the story and to reach out to people.
yes, of course. And that's what I've discovered when I've started hearing lots of podcasts about brand builders, and when we've started to do some events, because I don't know if you were aware of, but we do run a trade show in Quebec called Journée e-commerce, and we gather lots of
Hmm.
marketing experts from all around the world, and we might see you there one day.
Yeah.
And and it's always nice to see like the brand strategy behind the business. I think a business to have lots of success online, it does take a solid brand strategy. It's not just selling something like others. You need to have, you know, your brand image, yes, but also all the story and the background around it that makes your customer to be, attached to what you sell. And it does make all the difference between brands like Apple that understood that lots of years ago.
Yeah.
Um, at the end, what would be the best advice you would give to someone that would like to jump into e-commerce, or would like to have a startup and build a business like what you're doing right now?
Sure. Well, if you are looking for the wine industry, I would say that you have to really you have to be so much stronger with your brand, just like you were just saying, because it is, it's an experience, and so you have to be very, very clear on your mission and your impact,
Mhm.
so that way you're differentiated. For general e-commerce, I would just say you really have to be optimistic, and you have to be patient, because there are natural roller coasters up and down, and e-commerce changes so quickly that you just have to be adaptable. You have to learn, and you have to see that as a positive. You don't, there's no failing. You either learn or you succeed, and you just keep moving forward.
That's a good way to see it. Learn or succeed. That's pretty cool. Aubrey, it was a pleasure for me to have you on the show. I wish you a lot of success at Palate Club,
Thank you.
and I would love soon to move to US to test your product.
Well, whenever you're there next. Yeah, thank you, Philippe.
uh, Thank you so much.